Hey guys, our topic today is really going to start diving us into algebra and the way we use algebra in the real world. So, our topic is translating English to math, and it's really kind of like learning another language. If you've ever tried to learn another language, there's a lot of memorization. What word means how are you? What word means my name is? And you practice and you practice and you practice until you just kind of automatically know what those words mean. So, our goal is to translate between English and math expressions using key vocabulary words. Those key vocabulary words are words like sum, difference, quotient, product, and they are so important when you are dealing with word problems. If you don't know these words and you try and solve a word problem in the algebra unit, it is just not going to go well for you because you won't know what the problem's asking you to do. So during class today, I gave you a paper that looks like this, a graphic organizer that has addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, a whole bunch of different terms. And I also gave you a list of words, and I wanted you to try and put those words where they belong in the graphic organizer. So we're going to go through and I'm going to tell you what should go in each section, and I want you to correct them if you put words in the wrong section. These words are going to be used again and again and again in this unit the next 3 or 4 weeks of your life. So you need to start memorizing them. So for the addition section, let's go ahead and go there first. The words that belong in addition are add, sum, increased by, together, more, and plus, and combined. Some of the words that people have a hard time remembering are combined, together. Those words people struggle with to pair up with addition. For example, I could say my salary and my husband's salary combined is $10 a year. Obviously, that's not true, but I'm not going to tell you what my salary really is. I could say, together, my best friend and I made 500 rubber band bracelets over the weekend. Together would mean addition. I take the number of rubber band bracelets that I made and I add it to the number of rubber band bracelets that my best friend made, and that gives me 500 rubber band bracelets. So fix these words if they're wrong on your graphic organizer. And we're going to move on to subtraction. The words that mean subtraction are subtract, difference, minus, decreased by. People struggle with decreased by sometimes. If I were to say a number decreased by 6, that would be n, or whatever variable you choose, minus 6, decreased by. The hard thing about subtraction is there are a couple subtraction words that are what we call turnaround words, okay? And these turnaround words change the order and it can get really confusing. So we have then, from, fewer, and less than. So let's say I have, Sarah took 6 cookies from, there's that key word, from the cookie jar, okay? If I were to turn that into math, it would be, maybe I would use J for jar, J minus 6. See how that's a turnaround word? From means that, okay, I started out with 6 first in my sentence, and then I have jar, but it's not 6 minus jar. It's a turnaround word. So it's J minus 6 to tell you how many cookies are left in the cookie jar. Fewer than and less than are also turnaround words. Of all the mistakes people make in translating math into English, it is this concept of the turnaround word that shows up most often. So really focus on memorizing those turnaround words. Okay? Let's talk about division, division words, quotient, shared, per, divided by, ratio. If you have 10 candy bars and they are shared between your two friends, that's 10 divided by 2. If you have 10 boxes of pencils and they cost $6 per box. Ooh. That's where it gets tricky. I am so glad I made that mistake. 10 boxes and 6 per box? Oh. Well, you could have two questions that come for that. You could have the question of how much total did you pay per box? And that would be 6 times 10. Or you could have what is the cost per box of pencils, and each box of pencils might have 8 pencils. Well, then, how much is each pencil? It's $6 per 8 pencils. So it's going to be 6 divided by 8. Does this sound familiar from that school supplies journal that we did a couple weeks ago that you guys really, really struggled with? We had to do problems like this, and we had to do problems like this. And it was really confusing about whether you divided or you multiplied or added and subtracted. That's what I'm talking about before when I mentioned in word problems, people make mistakes because they don't know what the word means. Okay, so these are the words that should go in the division section of your graphic organizer. And if we go back, our next section is multiplication. In multiplication, you should have product times multiple and twice. So if I were to say, for example, twice a number, twice a number, then it would be 2x or 2p or whatever variable you use to represent your number. Of is also a really important word for multiplication. If I am going to take 3/4 of my salary and use that to pay bills, if I were to write that as math, it would be 3/4 times my salary. This little dot can mean multiplication, guys. So it would be 3/4 times my salary, and that would tell how much I'm spending on my bills. Okay? All right, let's go ahead. We're almost done with this graphic organizer. Next one is going to be equals. Equals are words like are, were, will be, is. So maybe I have 3 less than a number will be 17. Okay, I've got a lot going on here. I have less than, which is a turnaround number. I have a number, which is kind of your signal for a variable. And then I have will be, which is a signal for an equal sign. So this would actually be translated 3 less than a number. So I would have x minus 3 will be 17 equals 17. Turning a verbal expression here, 3 less than a number will be 17, into a math expression here, which we actually can solve. We're going to get to that next week. All right, so one last thing to talk about, and that is parentheses words. And oh my goodness, people struggle with parentheses words like crazy. Words like times the sum or times the difference. If I have perhaps the sentence 3 times the sum of a number and 6. If I were to write that in math, it would actually be 3 times, I have parenthesis words right here, times the sum. So 3 times parenthesis, a number and 6. So that would be some variable, let's say it's m, and that's addition, 6. There we go. 3 times m plus 6 using parentheses. That is probably the second most common mistake after what we talked about with the turnaround words. Okay? So, now that we have all of these words in the correct place in our graphic organizer, let's look at some examples. So we have here the quotient of the sum of a number and 6. Ooh, that is something that was not in our parenthesis words. Oh, yes it is. Ignore me. Kind of. This says times the sum. Here we have a slight difference. We have the quotient of a sum and a number and 6. So quotient is a word that means division. And we have here the sum of a number and 6. So that's going to go here, divided by, what's the second part of our quotient? It's 10. So this is actually the quotient of the sum of a number and 6, sum of a number and 6, that means quotient, and 10 goes right there. Can you kind of see how I got this mathematical expression from this written expression? It can get a little confusing, but you'll get the hang of it, I promise. Another way to write this, remember we've talked about how division can also be written as a fraction? So I could write n plus 6 over 10, and it means the same thing as this expression over here. All right? Let's try another one. And I expect that you are writing these on the next page in your notebook, guys. You should know by now that all the notes we take, we write in our notebook. Our next example is 4 less than the product of a number and 3. We've got some tricky things going on here. We have less than. Ooh, that is one of our turnaround words. We have to be careful with that. And then we have a product of a number and 3. Product is multiplication. So we have a number and 3 multiplying. I can't just choose any number. That's my signal that I'm using a variable. So how about we do y times 3 to represent the product of a number and 3. And then we have 4 less than, so that's going to be minus 4. Now, mathematicians, when they have a variable and a number multiplying, sometimes mathematicians have these weird little quirks that they have. They have to have things written a certain way. So instead of doing y times 3, they actually kind of want you to do 3y. So it's 3 times y, and then minus 4. That's what they would want to see here. All right, guys, we are almost out of time. I'm already at 13 minutes. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to give you a reflection question today. I want you to see if you can turn this math expression into a verbal expression with words. So this is, I'm going to rewrite it because that looks kind of confusing. 3 plus n over 2. Remember, a fraction is the same as division. So this could be 3 plus n divided by 2. Go ahead and write in words in Edmodo when you turn in your assignment and what you think that verbal expression could be. And I will see you guys in class tomorrow. Sorry the video was 3 minutes over 10 minutes. I apologize.